What is up, everybody? Welcome on in to the good old Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Andrew Cooper, alongside me, Mr. Howard Bender on this side over here. And today, very special episode for you. We've been going through, it's June, right? So it's time to set the foundation for what we're doing out here. Get all the foundational core players set and ranked in tiers so that we can start getting into the sleepers and the deep picks and the things that kind of change the outcome to the trajectory of history. But first, you got to get the basics in, right? So what Howard and I have been doing is we jumped in, we ranked the top quarterbacks in tiers. Then we jumped in, we did running backs. Boom, top 40 running backs. Those are your guys, those are your workhorses, your flexes. Today, top 40 wide receivers. We're going to go in, we're going to debate the pros and cons, who has the floor, who has the upside, put them all together. And then you're going to have your wide receiver ones, your twos, and your threes. And then we can get into other things you guys want. I know you just want sleepers, right? You want the sleepers, you want the breakouts, you want the rookies. First, we're getting this in there. It's going to be great. And then we're going to hit on that. Bender, not a big news week, my man. Is there anything popping that we need to hit on before we get into this, or should we just rock and roll?
No, I don't think there's really anything going on. I mean, we're just kind of, it was all the Aaron Rodgers information and all that stuff that kind of went through. Stupid news cycle stories coming out saying that Pittsburgh traded George Pickens, knowing that he wouldn't get along with Rodgers, which means that they had something in place with Rodgers dating back into early May. And they ended up making that move. So yeah, it's the only thing that I've really seen around the old newsroom here for the NFL. So let's dive in. Let's talk some wide receivers. Before we do that, as always, you guys see it rolling there across the bottom of the screen. You see it up there in the corner over there. Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide for fantasy football is out. It is alive and well. Coop's rankings, my rankings. I did a top 200, a top 200 super flex. We've got the best ball cheat sheet and everything like that going in there. Strategy articles for all scoring formats that you could possibly have. I just published a top 10 rookies, and I threw a little bonus section in there as well for 5 guys you want to keep on your radar. More content rolling out as we kind of move forward here towards training camp, but now's the time to get in on it while you can. This is these shows, this is like your foundation, your base coat, and then you dive into the draft guide. So fantasyalarm.com/NFL draft guide, or just hit that QR code up there in the corner and get in on it. Win a
Get
championship.
in. Yeah, and we got content coming out all summer. It's not just like one PDF you print out. I mean, the cheat sheet is in there, so you do get that as part of it, but it's stuff all summer long that's coming out behind the paywall. You get it. And I'll tell you what, Angie, the SFB rankings are live. They're up. I'm going to tweet them out today. I didn't yesterday because I was too busy arguing with everyone in the world about Michael Pittman. But today I'm going to get those tweeted out so everybody knows that those are up and running, and you can check out our Scott Fishbowl rankings with a little advice in there too. I did one article that's basic advice, and then the second article is specific advice, right? Talking about specific strategies, specific players with rankings. And Howard, because the Scott Fishbowl is 12 teams, 22 rounds, there's 264 players on there. So no, you're not going to need them all. But if you do need them all, they're on there. So let's go. Let's jump in right now and let's hit on the wide receivers. Everybody, thank you for popping in. Let us know what you think in the comments. Who should be higher? Who should be lower? Here are today's tiers. Here's what we're doing. The Super Duper Stars tier remains at the very top. We're switching it up ever so slightly from what we did for running backs, just because it makes more sense for this particular position. Super Duper Stars is the top. Probable wide receiver ones, we reserve the right to put more than 12 players in those top 2 tiers if we feel like it. Entirely possibly we do. Next group is the upside wide receiver 2s, guys that are going in the wide receiver 2 range that we think could easily be wide receiver 1s. The next tier is going to be lineup staples. These are guys that, every single league you have, for the most part, is going to have at least 2 wide receiver spots. Some will have 3. Some will have a flex. Some will have multiple flexes, but virtually all of them have at least 2 wide receiver spots. This group is kind of the guys that maybe they're not the sexiest, maybe they're not the flashiest, but they're guys that you pick and you plan to have in your lineup for the entire year, just stapled in the lineup. After that, we get the feel-good wide receiver 3s, maybe guys going in that wide receiver you know, 24 to 36 range that we really do like. And after that, we get into the danger zone. And when I say danger zone, go and look up the guys last year that finished wide receiver 35, 36, 37. Technically, those are wide receiver threes. You weren't very happy to have them in your lineup. Let me tell you that. So, does that sound good to you, Bender?
So is the difference between upside wide receiver twos and lineup staples, is that just floor versus ceiling?
Yeah, it's kind of you will feel it out as we go, but you can kind of get the idea because again, once you get into wide receiver 13, 14, 15, a lot of those guys are guys that we probably consider guys that we're drafting. When you draft somebody a wide receiver 13 or 14, you're not drafting them because you think they're wide receiver 14. You're drafting them because you think they're going to be a wide receiver one. That's kind of that group there. And then the next group is kind of those guys where you're like, you know what? I go out, I draft this guy. Do I think he's going to be the wide receiver one on the season? Probably not. But he's going to be in my lineup every week. I'll give you an example right now. Cortland Sutton. That's a guy that when I draft that guy, I plan to start him all year long. Do I think he's going to come out and have 1,700 yards? Probably not. But like, he's a guy you feel good about. That makes sense.
Then how does that differ from probable wide receiver ones? Just as an example, then, if Cortland Sutton who is a wide receiver one, if he is a lineup staple, what would be the probable wide receiver ones then?
Probable wide receiver ones are guys that we rank like 7 overall.
Okay.
Like, so if you look at a guy and say, I can't say this guy's a super duper star right now, but I think he'll be a wide receiver one, he goes in there. Like Nico Collins. Nico Collins gets drafted as in the wide receiver one range. Would you consider him to be in the tier that we put Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb? I don't know.
All right. Well, let's sort it through it and see where we go.
All right. And as always, as the people demand, I did a poll, Howard, and actually 100% of people said that they want to go in alphabetical order. So we're gonna go.
I didn't see that poll, but okay.
Kind of
I love that suggestion. Well, it's easier for running backs than it is for wide receivers. Was just to go team by team, then place each guy.
I pulled one up that was team by team, and it had 100 wide receivers in it, and it was just pictures with no names. So once again,
I said not wide receivers, but I liked it for running backs.
Yeah.
Let's get to it. All right, number one on the list.
Okay. First one here, Davante Adams, alphabetical order. Where do you live with Adams? He goes in the wide receiver 2 range for sure. I kind of think he is a guy that I consider to be an upside player that could be a wide receiver 1, or is he more at this stage in his career, more of a guy that you're just like, look, I'm drafting him because I think he's going to get decent volume, but maybe the magic is gone.
Well, where do you live? I mean, that's the thing. You have to look at it in the realm of who's on the team with him, because Cooper Kupp is the number 1 wide receiver for the Rams. In years past, what's that? Puka Nacua. I mean, yeah, Puka Nacua. In years past, Davante Adams was the number 1 wide receiver on his team. I don't think you can put him in that, in that group at this point right now, right? Like probable wide receiver ones, Puka Nacua. Lineup staple, I think, is more Davante Adams, because you are gonna you're gonna leave him in there, right? You're not gonna. I mean, listen, unless he spends the first 3 weeks of the season seeing no more than like 5 targets per game, then you're starting him no matter what. You're not playing matchups with him. He's locked.
Yeah, I think he's locked. I think that's a good spot for him to live. I will throw out there, I don't think it's crazy, the notion that he could get more targets than Puka Nacua. I think that it has to be said that it's possible. But you're right. If we were going to bet on it, the odds would strongly favor Puka Nacua. That's why he goes in the first round and Davante Adams goes in like the 3rd or 4th round. So yeah, lineup staples.
Mile High Luke's actually agreeing with you there in the chat. He thinks that he could be the number 1 there as well.
He also voted for alphabetical. Really smart, smart, sharp guy. That Mile High Luke. I like him. So yeah, I think
dude's high as a kite right now. What are you talking about, man? Come on.
I think Greg Martinez, he's where we're living. If you manage to get 2 guys from the high end and Davante Adams is your wide receiver 3, that's going to look pretty in a lineup. And I think it's entirely possible based on the ADPs. So feeling good about it. Next one here, kind of a tricky one, Jordan Addison. If they were still Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold, I feel like it's a little easier to predict the volume to be really good. I feel like he's got to go. Now, I guess the question really is If Jordan Addison is your wide receiver 3, are you feeling good about it, or are you a little worried about it?
I think I'm feeling okay about him being your wide receiver 3. I don't really. I mean, it's a pass heavy offense. Kevin O'Connell loves to throw the football. You've got Jefferson, you've got Addison, you've got Hawkinson. That's your pecking order. If you want to say danger zone because you fear that with his trial actually come his court date, I believe is the end of this month. And so if you think that maybe he gets found guilty and then the NFL has to act quickly and kind of assess some sort of a suspension, then you can put him in the danger zone. But I mean, we'll have to check in with Drew Davenport over at Football Guys, our resident attorney, to see what he thinks. But I think with the way that the NFL drags its ass, I don't think he's getting suspended.
Yeah, and you can get away with like kind of pushing dates around. You have your lawyer go on vacation or whatever. The Vikings a while back, not sure if you remember this. Remember the Star Caps incident with the steroids for Kevin and Pat Williams?
Yeah.
They basically pushed their court dates out so long that they both retired before they got suspended. So, it's entirely possible to go that route. I think we'll put Addison there, and we'll see who else fits in that category. If too many guys go ahead of him, then we'll push him down because you just made a perfect danger zone argument for him. The other argument is that like we don't know if he's going to get more targets than TJ Hawkinson or not. With some of these guys, it's obvious. Like Devontae Adams is obviously going to get more targets than Tyler Higbee or Terrence Ferguson, right? But like and Tutu Atwell. But like with Addison, it's possible he could be the third target on the team. AJ Brown last year underperformed a little bit because the team he got hurt. He only played 13 games. And also the team attempted the fewest passes of any team in the league because Saquon Barkley was just too good. AJ Brown, for you, probable wide receiver 1 or upside wide receiver 2 in that neck of the woods?
No, he's a probable wide receiver 1 for me. He is the number 1 guy. Again, one of the things that we've looked at with this Philadelphia offseason is the fact that they didn't really do anything to bolster their case that their defense is going to be able to withstand the punishment. They ditched a ton of veterans. They rebuilt through the draft. They didn't really do much during, free agency on the defensive side. And so that's the question, are teams going to throw more on Philadelphia and kind of put them on their heels and not let them just load up with Saquon Barkley? I think we see more downfield work, in the passing realm. And I think AJ Brown benefits the most from that on that team.
No notes, my man. I'm fully on board with that. I think that, it's so hard to be very last in pass attempts. We just would never project it. Like for a team like the Eagles, we would never say, yeah, they'll probably be dead last in pass attempts. So I'm fully with you. Here's an easy one. We'll just put Jamar Chase right there.
Yep.
For those that didn't join us the last 2 weeks, 2 other things I'll mention. Within the tiers, we will be ranking guys from left to right. So that's in that super duper stars area. So easy to put Chase there. And then we'll see whether he's 1 or 2 or 3 by how we put him left to right. And then the other last rule is that Howard and I each have a veto. If we really, really feel strongly about anything, we want to move a guy up, move a guy down, move a guy left or right, we can do that. And you cannot veto a veto, cannot triple stamp a double stamp. And Howard has one more thing.
No, I'm just doing the Tim Matthews for Jamar Chase.
Tim Matthews for Jamar Chase. Number 1, get him up. Nico Collins. Obviously the number 1 on his team, especially after losing Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs. Last year he's shown that he can be a top dog if everything goes well for that team. He does go in the first round of early best ball drafts. I don't know if he's going to be there for redraft though, Howard.
I think it depends on who's doing the drafting as to whether or not you think Nico Collins goes in the back end of that first round. I'm actually fine with that. I guess the question is how do you feel about CJ Stroud and the shoulder situation that he's dealing with right now? Does that make you nervous? Is that going to potentially limit some things? Now, we've seen some moves made by the Houston Texans here in the offseason where they're loading up in the backfield. Is that because they think they're going to need to run more, or is that because they're worried about Joe Mixon's ankle? And I think that that's something to kind of pay attention to. I'll leave him there as a probable wide receiver one. I do think he is a super duper star, but before we move him all the way up there, we got to just check on his quarterback's health.
Exactly. Fully. Yeah, because I mean it has to make you nervous that the guy's not ready to throw because I mean, like, yes, your shoulder can get sore from throwing too much one day or doing something, but missing a whole set of practices, like that's not normal. It really isn't. For somebody that throws for a living. So yeah, probable wide receiver ones is a good spot. Stephon Diggs here. And again, to come up with these top 40, what I did is I took Howard's top 60. I took my top 60. I averaged those out, essentially removed anybody that we didn't both have in our top 60, right? Which was only like 6 total players, and nobody that was in either of our top 40s. And then I averaged those out to come up with our average top 40. That's this list. We both have Stephon Diggs in our top 40. How do you feel about him though when the rubber meets the road here and we have to like actually categorize him?
Um,
He is scary. There's no question
I
that
mean,
he's
yeah, you could say the danger zone because you don't know if he's going to come back from the knee. Um, I actually, believe it or not, I kind of feel like he could be an upside wide receiver too. If he locks in, if he and Drake may connect, and let's say he doesn't miss any time, right? If we're going to talk ceiling, if we're going to talk what the upside is, Stephon Diggs doesn't miss any time. He becomes the number one favorite target for Drake May. Will there be enough work for you to say that you want him in as your wide receiver two? You've drafted him probably as your wide receiver three, but you got him in your, the production right there could be an upside wide receiver too. So that's where I would put Diggs for the time being right now, since that's a category just based in ceiling.
yeah. So you think that Diggs could end up being a wide receiver one in fantasy?
I mean, if he gets the volume, I mean, if he puts up
Possible.
1,300
It's
yards and
possible.
8 touchdowns, what is that? Is that wide receiver one number? I think
Yeah.
so.
I mean, he was on pace for 100 receptions last year before he got hurt. 100. He was in the top 10 easily for receptions per game, not targets, receptions. But I just don't know. The hang up is I really like Devontae Adams. So I have a hard time putting him ahead of
Well,
Devontae Adams.
again, is that really ahead? Like that's what I'm talking about. Like a lineup staple, right? Is to me, that's a high floor guy who, yeah, you don't think about that at all. Like, it doesn't matter if he's your wide receiver two, if he's your wide receiver three, he's just a guy who you don't care about matchups. I want to just keep him in my lineup there. I do feel like, Diggs is more of like the upside play because there are question marks. I think if you put lineup staples ahead of upside wide receiver twos, you would probably feel a little bit better about this.
Well, the way that I have it envisioned here is that
Mm-hmm.
top 1 through 6 go in super duper stars. Those guys are just like 1 through 5, 1 through 6, however many guys are just like the highest floor, highest ceiling. Probable wide receiver ones are guys that we rank in the back half of the wide receiver one range, right?
Mm-hmm.
Upside wide receiver twos are guys that are being picked as wide receiver twos that we think could be wide receiver ones. So we're talking like guys that we would rank 13 through like 15, 16, 17, 18.
Oh, okay. See, all right. So if it's the upside, you're drafting him as a wide receiver two,
To
and
be a
you
wide receiver
think that
one.
he's got wide receiver one
Yeah.
potential. Okay. All
Let's
right.
do this. Let's do this.
There it
Probable
is.
wide receiver ones, wide
Wide
receiver one
receiver one
potential.
potential.
Yes.
Okay.
So then feel good. So then it's lineup staples is kind of that the guys that you pick in around like pick 20. And you're like, I can't believe this guy is here. I'm taking this guy. He's going to be in my lineup every single week, all year long. And then once you get past the top 24, then you're into the guys that go 24 through 36. And you're like, okay, you know what? I feel good about this guy in this wide receiver 3 range. That's the feel good wide receivers. And then the danger zone are those guys sitting around rank 36, rank 40. And you're like, I don't even know if this guy's going to be in my lineup. I only have 2 wide receiver spots, 3 wide receiver spots. That's kind of the danger zone. So that's kind of the
So
way I envision it.
so we're going to basically spend the majority of today
Debating
debating
the
between
category,
wide receiver one potential and a lineup staple. I think
which we
everybody else will be pretty easy to rank, but once we get from wide receivers 20 to 40, it's going to be back and forth there.
yeah, there's going to be some. Like Mike Evans, just to give everybody an example so we don't spend the entire time debating this. Mike Evans to me is a wide receiver staple. I draft that guy. He's going to be in my lineup every week. Do I think he's going to go back to being the guy that has like 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns? I don't know, but like you draft him, you plan to start him every week, right?
Okay.
Would you rather have Evans or Devontae Adams?
I would probably say Adams.
Me too. Yeah, and I'd rather have Evans than Diggs right now.
Yeah.
Even as a big Diggs guy. Zay Flowers leads his team in targets. Very strange setup though. I don't think we should put him as high as wide receiver 1 potential. Would you?
No, I don't. It's and let's be clear, everybody. What we're saying is your fantasy wide receiver 1, not a wide receiver 1 on their team.
Exactly.
I think Flowers is a guy who actually is like a feel-good wide receiver 3. I think that he can be considered a lineup staple, but to me, I'm not drafting Zay Flowers. I have at least 2 really, really good wide receivers before I draft Zay Flowers, who, listen, I have him ranked 26th, right, in half-point PPR. I mean, that's, for me, Rashee Rice is in that range. He's just behind Stephon Diggs in my ranking. So yeah, I think that that's a good spot to have him.
I have him ranked 24. So our average is wide receiver 25, which is like the definition of feel good wide receiver, right? Like if he's your wide receiver 2, you don't feel so good. If he's your wide receiver 3, you feel real good. Like,
Yes.
So that's a good way to look at that. Chris Godwin. In past years, I would put him up high because we love the guy, but definitely coming off of a serious ankle injury. They drafted other weapons, but I still feel pretty good about him.
I still feel pretty good about him as well. But yeah, I mean, you got to put him right next to Evans. 2 of them will kind of, we'll figure it out, because again, we got to see what Josh Grizzard does as far as, how he's lining these guys up, plus Godwin's knee. So we'll see. But yeah, I think that they're definitely they're guys who they're on my roster. I'm just leaving him in my starting lineup, unless one of them's hurt.
Howard Grizzard, such a mystery box guy. I was looking at his Wikipedia just to like figure out where this guy came from, and I noticed. Did you see my tweet? This guy, he's from Lizard Lick, North Carolina.
Yeah, Josh Grizzard from Lizard Lick. I think we talked about that.
Grizzard from Lizard, dude. Move him up. Okay, Marvin Harrison Jr.
That's where you got him right there is what I like, right? This is a guy who, you don't want him as your lead wide receiver, but if you have him as you draft him as your wide receiver 2, could you have 2 wide receiver 1s? Absolutely.
Yes. Boom. He's a good example. Every time we go through this, we come across a player and I'm like, yes, that's the perfect example for this. I wish I thought of that earlier when we were debating it. T. Higgins here. T. Higgins is an interesting one because he could go in any number of these orangish, yellowish categories, right?
Yeah, probably. I would say
like you draft him, he's starting every week for you. So he goes in here for sure. But does he go up here?
No, I don't think he goes up there. It's kind of funny. Yeah, I would probably leave him there as a lineup staple. I would actually put him behind. Yeah, no, I think you can leave him right there with Devontae Adams. It's
almost same guy. It's almost same guy.
There are times, I'm not going to lie, there are times if I go, wide receiver heavy early, there are times where I might take T out of my lineup. I'm serious. I've done it.
That's the thing, man. T. Higgins is like, in role models when he's like, I don't know if I even like Coca-Cola, but I like the idea of it. Right. Like it's like T. Higgins has always been this like idea. Like he looks so good. He makes crazy, arrogant catches, one-handed catches. He'll have a 3-touchdown game. He'll have a 150-yard game. But like, then you go look at his stats, like his career stats, and you're like, it's not like that good. It's like fine. So
my problem with you ranking T. Higgins right now is because I know that you have Michael Pittman in a very, very similar range as T. Higgins. So I'm sitting here thinking right now, wherever Coop puts T. Higgins, that's where he's going to also want to put Michael Pittman.
No, I see. I am willing to settle my biases. I think they're very similar, talented players, just in a vacuum. But the Joe Burrow versus whoever the Colts quarterback is the differentiator there. So
Oh,
yeah,
definitely.
I'm willing to definitely
Okay.
concede that one. Tyreek Hill, I don't think he's gonna go any lower than this because of the upside, right?
Probably not. Yeah. I mean, you have to leave him there. I'd almost say probable wide receiver ones just because he's Tyreek, but I guess with the injuries and to his shakiness, I think that's probably a good spot to leave him there. Again, can draft him as your top wide receiver and just grab somebody of similar ilk, to have in there. But yeah, just leave him there as the potential.
Yeah, he's a guy that like when I draft Tyreek Hill, I go to the dynamic tier rankings in the draft guide, and I say, yeah, I'm going to circle back and get myself a little safety. I'll get myself a couple reliable guys here because you never know with this guy. Here's another high risk, high reward type guy, Travis Hunter.
I would actually put Travis Hunter in my feel good wide receiver 3 section. I don't need to,
Okay.
I don't even need to put him in the danger zone because everything that we're hearing is that Liam Cohen wants him more on offense than he really does on defense. So, what's the comment? He's going to major in offense and maybe be a double major, but
Ooh.
we'll see about that. So I think he's a guy who I am definitely fine with as my wide receiver 3 as long as I know that I've got like 2 solid guys up above him.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I like the feel good wide receiver 3 category because it's like once you get a couple solid guys, these are the guys you want,
Yeah.
right? So I'm loving that. And again, this guy is a freak. And the crazy thing about the stats he put up in college that Matt Harmon pointed out when he came on our Sirius XM show is that in college it was the other way, Howard, where he was going to all the meetings with the defense and he wasn't going to any offensive meetings. So he would basically just be like, "Hey, what are we doing today?" And they would just kind of write it on a napkin. He would just go out and torch everybody.
Well, he's
So
he's a better cornerback than he is a wide receiver. That's
and
that's kind of the issue. Like the NFL, like they drafted him to be a wide receiver. They drafted him with the intent of playing him both ways, but I think what they're nervous about in year 1 is him splitting his attention. He needs to stay focused, right? I mean, how many times have we seen, this dude's on the punt return team? Oh, really? He's a punt returner now? Let me take him off my wide receiver board because he's going to spend his entire rookie campaign focusing on returning punts and not being a part of like a 4 wide receiver set. So yeah,
right.
I think that's something to kind of take into account here with regard to Hunter, that they're going to give him, if they think that he has less to learn as a cornerback on defense, maybe they spend this first year focusing so heavily on the wide receiver aspect, improve his game there, and then be like, okay, now we're going to open up more defense, and he doesn't really have as much to learn on that front because he's a good corner anyway.
Right.
So
And at that point, it won't come as a sacrifice from offense. So we're cool with it.
right, yeah, exactly.
Uh, let's
Damn,
get
am I a coach?
Coach Bender, dude. And hey, that's the point on this. Greg Martinez says danger zone. It's the Jags. We like Liam Cohen. We like James Bradbury. So as Chad Khan, as long as he's busy doing his soccer stuff, whatever, and they have true control of this team, it's a different Jaguars. Like the Jaguars were good when they had like Tom Coughlin. They've just had bad leadership. I like the new leadership. So I'm in on this team now.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase goes first, Justin Jefferson next. We'll leave that. That's the easy one for us, right? It's just if you switch them and Justin Jefferson was playing with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase is playing with a dude who's never played in the NFL before, we would switch them in the rankings. Simple as that. It doesn't have to be that hard at that level. Jerry Judy, this is one that maybe requires a little more thinking.
Yeah. All right. So well, because yeah, here's the thing: is that he's probably better off to be in a feel good wide receiver 3 spot. That's probably where. But I'll tell you what, I mean, it really
There is so much upside. There's a
there's
lot of upside.
there's a lot of upside here just based on this offensive scheme. Like I think you could leave him in there as a lineup staple, as long as he is the number one target on this team. But since we can't guarantee that, I'll put him as a feel-good wide receiver 3. And then I'll tell you what, I even think that, I could, I think he could bump himself up if he has that rapport and he starts seeing targets like when Flacco was throwing him, 15 targets in a game. Then all of a sudden you start creeping into wide receiver 1, but it is Jerry Jeudy, so I don't want to put the cart before the horse. Feel good wide receiver 3 for me right now.
He could be in the danger zone too. You never know. But I mean, like Jeudy really looked good last year.
Dylan Gabriel could be his quarterback.
Exactly. That's the danger. That's where we'll see how many guys we put in these ranges. I think we have our first danger zone player here potentially. I still love this player. I'm still drafting a ton of him, but in best ball, I like it. In redraft, I would be a little nervous being like, I'm going to start this guy every week. Last year, those last couple games, Howard, remember how dismal that was? We kept betting on him to bounce back. Never did. So
it's also not a high volume passing offense there anymore in Seattle. So you're talking about a guy who's going to see fewer targets probably than Jackson Smith and the Jigba. And, in a run first scheme. So I like the danger zone for Cooper Kupp. It's a little nerve wracking drafting him. If you're a multi-league player, then, grabbing a share is pretty good. But as it stands right now, in all these drafts that I've done, even the best balls, I have not gotten a lot of Cooper Kupp at all.
As someone that likes Cooper Kupp a lot, I still can't draft him even really in the wide receiver 3 range because there's just too many guys that are like, there's too many good players out there.
Yeah.
And the upside's there, but again, he's still probably going to be a guy that lives on volume if the volume's there. This guy goes up here. Question for you, Bender.
I want to just put him. I just want to put him in the stupid danger zone. In all honesty, because today on the Fantasy Alarm Show on Sirius XM, our 3 burning questions segment is centered around the Dallas Cowboys, and then our countdown from 5 wide receivers, 4 running backs, 3 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks goes to number 1, which is your fantasy MVP. So I think if I can show Jim that we've ranked CeeDee Lamb in the danger zone somewhere, it'll feel better for this show.
Truth be told, I have Lamb ranked here. I think you have this is half PPR. I think you have Jefferson ahead.
I have Jefferson ahead just because I love the player so much, and Dallas is, I don't know. Yeah, I think that it could go either way. It really could go either way. If you wanted to move Lamb up there, then you can definitely do that. He's got a better secondary target though than Jefferson does, but he's also got a quarterback who he's more seasoned with.
That's where I live. Is I look at it and I'm like, I think both players are great. I just trust the quarterback more for Lamb. That's really what it boils down to in the end. And again, Pickens, it's Pickens and Ferguson versus Addison and Hawk. Plus Aaron Jones. I mean, he gets volume as well. I think it's splitting hairs there, but it's a tough decision. Here's my answer to that, Howard. I'm taking running backs there, and I'll make that call if I have to. And by the time if the draft really goes that way, where it goes Chase and then Bijan and Barkley and possibly also Gibbs, then I just feel so good about getting one of these guys at 5 that I don't even care. But I am going Lamb right now. We'll have to see how things shake out. In the chat, you're making a point that we fully agree with, that it's entirely possible for him to have wide receiver 1 upside, but the quarterback play is the question. Like if Joe Flacco is the guy, if you were the Browns, you don't want Joe Flacco to be the guy. You want somebody to win that job. You know what I mean? Like they're actively rooting against Joe Flacco. That's the problem you run into. And then it's Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. And it's basically the, 5-headed monster they had with Deshaun Kaiser. They started like 5 different quarterbacks last year and they were all terrible. So it could happen again. That's the problem we run into there. Drake London. I don't know if he's being drafted squarely as a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, but I think he's more wide receiver 1 potential. And I would even put him behind Hill because I think Hill has a higher ceiling. We'll see what happens with him and Michael Penix, but we know that Drake London is the number 1 target on this team. And, it's a good solid mix between passing and running, in that offense. But Zach Robinson definitely tilts a little bit towards the throwing side more. He's from that McVay tree, and that's what he likes to do. Is he's made his bones as like a passing game coordinator. So, I think London definitely has that ability there, but I still think Tyreek's got the ceiling.
Wow. See, the thing is, both of us have London ranked very high because of
Mhm.
the safety of him, right? So we both have London over Hill, but I totally get the Hill could have that crazy, crazy upside. But maybe London could though with a new quarterback. We both have London ranked 10 in our ranking.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I think we got to give respect to London here, just based on where we're.
Give
I
it
think
to him.
we'll give it to him out of
Well, then you got
because
to
of
put him ahead of Marvin Harrison. I've got him a couple spots ahead of Marvin Harrison too.
I think I do also.
It's the
I think I
safety.
also do.
It's
Yeah,
it's it's
it's the
he's I
safety.
mean, you know what he is? He's just a very reliable guy. There's nothing real sexy or explosive about Drake London. He just gets the job done.
Yeah, I mean, he might even end up in the probable wide receiver one range uh, when we're all said and done here. Lad McConkey, again, this is an interesting debate, especially the fact that they go alphabetically. Because I go back and forth between drafting these two guys in full PPR all the time. In half PPR, maybe London over McConkey. Where do you live on McConkey? He was so good last year.
He was really, really good. And again, drafting Trey Harris as the split end is really nice. Adding the extra tight end in Tyler Conklin to give more targets is good. It just shows that you're not fully reliant on Lad McConkey, but I still think that I don't know. I mean, even in a run first scheme, I have a hard time seeing McConkey have fewer than like 8 to 10 targets per game.
Which
And
is
and, and I'm
so
being
many.
conservative there.
Right. And 8 targets is like we're talking that's like 100, that's minimum 130, so probable wide receiver one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably.
Uh, Terry McLaurin, there's a whole divisive group of guys here. Terry McLaurin, right?
Another good spot, right?
13 touchdowns.
Who knew 10 through 15 was going to give us this much trouble?
It really, you know what? Why are we going in alphabetical order? So stupid. Uh, really, I should have taken a look. Because this is kind of a nightmare zone. McLaurin has to go behind Hill for me, right? But does he go? Would you rather have T. Higgins or Terry McLaurin?
Oh, I'd rather have Terry McLaurin. I love McLaurin. I don't know what it is what don't we love about Terry McLaurin?
I I don't know. He's holding out. He's not if he's the like yeah if he signs like if he shows up at camp at training camp then yeah I mean there's nothing to not
He's
love.
already got the rapport with Jaden Daniels, and you know what? He probably is talking to Jaden Daniels, being like, "Yo, I have to do this. This is for me and my family. It has nothing to do with with you or the team or anything like that. You and me, when we're on the field together, we do what we do. So I like him. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, you had definitely have him a little higher than me. He only got 117 targets, but dude, he was unbelievable in contested catches. Led the league in contested catches by like a lot, and then also 13 touchdowns. Which you know, when we say guys are quarterback proof, that means Terry McLaurin can get to 1,000 yards every year with junk. But the one time he gets a real quarterback, he goes from 5 touchdowns a year to 13. So quarterback matters. All right, let's get through some of these rapid because we're getting a little behind here. Ted McMillan. I
Tet
think
McMillan. you know,
I think he has to go here, right?
he's got to go there because it's
Like,
Carolina. We're just gonna have to see because we don't know if Bryce Young was last year the in the second half, was that the Bryce Young that we're gonna get this year. But I'll tell you what I love, I think, because I kind of feel almost like Tet McMillan and Jerry Jeudy are in a very similar spot in the sense that I think Tet McMillan can have a 25% target share on this team.
right. It's why range of outcomes is so important because like the floor is bad, but the ceiling is high. Whereas some of these guys, they're like, good floor, like medium floor, medium ceiling, right? Guys like Mike Evans. So he's still scary though. So I let's put him towards the top of the danger zone.
Okay.
DK Metcalf now with Aaron Rodgers. I think I would feel good if he was my wide receiver 3, or is he in the danger zone?
I don't think he's in the danger zone. I mean, I think that he and Aaron Rodgers are going to have some issues. Because as much as I love Metcalf and he's a physical specimen, he's fast as hell. He's not the crispest of route runners. How about that?
Yeah.
And we all know that Aaron Rodgers likes to throw to a spot on the field as opposed to throwing it right directly at the wide receiver. He wants to try and lead that receiver. He expects the receiver to be there. If he doesn't, Coop, can I do my impression again?
it
Replacements. I'm talking to my deaf tight end here. You go this way and that way, and which way?
Yes, it is. It is. That's the thing. Like for a guy like that, I feel great if he's my wide receiver 3. The problem if he's my wide receiver 2 is if things go ugly, I hate having to replace my wide receiver 2 with lesser players. I have no problem taking my wide receiver 3 out and demoting him to the flex or to the bench, but it sucks when you have to sit there and be like, am I really going to bench the second wide receiver I drafted? So definitely in that range. Definitely in that range. DJ Moore.
I'm on the cusp here. I think he's right in between wide receiver 1 potential and lineup staples. I think he's right in that kind of range there as well. Because again, while yes, I think he is the wide receiver 1 for the Chicago Bears, you do have more options here. You are changing up the offense. What will DJ Moore's exact target share be? We don't know specifically because, Ben Johnson has more weaponry to work with now than he really had in Detroit. In Detroit, he had Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams, and he had a tight end, Sam Laporta, right? When you're looking now here, you've got, you've got DJ Moore, you've got Romo Dunze, you drafted Luther Burden, you bring in Colston Loveland in the draft, you still have Cole Kmet sitting there. There's a wide receiver who I'm actually forgetting about right now, but there is another wide receiver in there that could end up getting work. Who was it?
Yeah.
Who am I missing?
For the Bears, Roma Dunze?
There's somebody else I thought.
It's Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet. That's what makes it so crowded, those guys. I'm not super worried about the other wide receivers there. You have Mike Evans and DJ Moore back-to-back in your rankings. I do have Moore ahead of Godwin, so I think this is a good spot for him to live right there.
Cool. I can dig that.
Malik Neighbors, super duper star or probable wide receiver 1?
I'm on super duper star. I mean, this dude continues to see double-digit targets, and what he does with it is spectacular. Big fan.
Super duper star Puka Nacua as well. Nacua or Neighbors if you're on the clock?
Neighbors for me, because now you've got, is Nacua super duper star, or does his target share go down because you got Devontae Adams there and he's just a probable wide receiver 1?
I think both those guys are going to get 125 plus targets. So I'm cool leaving him right there.
Okay.
But let's see how many other guys we want to put up there, because I don't think we should have more than 6 guys in that tier.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes. This is a tough one here. Chris Olave.
Danger zone.
Yeah.
I love the players so much.
It's quarterback,
between the concussions and the QB situation, I don't know how you don't put him in the danger zone.
He has to go in that range. Would you on the clock? You pick Ted McMillan or Olave?
Ted McMillan.
Yeah, I think
it's crazy. I know.
I have it ranked the same way.
I love Olave as the player so much. It's just you put him on any other team, and then I forget about the concussion situation. I fear that with the quarterbacks that he's there, it's going to be hospital ball after hospital ball.
Right, and it's one thing to start a quarterback if a quarterback gets taken 101 in the NFL draft, that already still makes you nervous. This guy went the second round, Tyler Shough. So, it could be real bad. It could be the Saints could be picking first overall next year. George Pickens can't go. I don't think he can go in wide receiver 1 potential.
No. He's a feel good wide receiver 3 potential lineup staple, depending on how everything looks. But I'm
Flowers
in
are picking.
Range. I think that's okay. That's a good spot.
I think that's a good spot. The man of the hour, Mr. Michael Pittman. I'm gonna
walk away for about 2.5 minutes, and when I come back, you'll have him ranked, and we'll move to the next play.
I think you'll appreciate this. I don't think he's good enough to I don't think he showed enough last year, even playing through the broken back, to be considered a lineup staple. I would be nervous if he's my wide receiver 2. I do feel good about him if he's my wide receiver 3. but I think I still take Flowers ahead. I think Flowers is just safer in his role.
I'm actually taking Pickens ahead of him as well. I might even take Judy ahead of Pittman, to be honest. Again, it's Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson, or Dak Prescott throwing to Pickens, or Lamar Jackson throwing to Zay Flowers, or then we get kind of in the shaky realm of Judy. But Judy has more of a potential to be the wide receiver 1 on the Browns than Pickens does in Dallas. He's never going to be the wide receiver 1.
Yeah, Pittman's okay. So Pittman was the wide receiver 1 last year, got the most targets even with a broken back. So I like this. We'll put Judy ahead.
That'll work. Okay. That works for me.
Here's a player we both like. If there were no issues at all, then I think this guy has to go up here now. Now that he probably isn't getting suspended, and the fact that he's out there practicing with no knee brace, I feel like he's got to go up here somewhere, right?
I'm okay with that. Big fan.
Calvin Ridley, again, rookie quarterback, so he can't go too high. But I mean, what if Cam Ward's awesome?
That's the thing, and Ridley is the number 1 guy there. So I think that I'd definitely be fine with him if he were my wide receiver 3. That's where he's being drafted so low.
Yeah,
because of the situation. I'm okay with that, and I like him where you have him right there.
I think that's good. Deebo Samuel's in the danger zone somewhere.
I would not be doing my job.
I was surprised. I
didn't say stop body shaming Deebo.
Yeah, stop body shaming Deebo. We'll start doing that. But but still, though, like just getting traded away, right? Getting traded away and being kind of a gadget guy. He makes me nervous, this guy. But we both have him ranked in the top 40.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's a guy that he's gonna get some carries. I think that they're gonna, Anthony Lynn Anthony Lynn has never had a problem splitting up backfields, and he's gonna be like, hey, let me get this guy some looks, especially if anything happens to Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
Like,
nothing's happening to Austin Eckler. He's too amazing of a person.
He's the best, bro. He is so. I was so mad that he could only do the show with you and Jim. I texted you about it. I was like, dude, those guests have to be reserved for Thursday or Friday.
If you guys didn't already hear on the Fantasy Alarm show on Monday, Jim Bowden and I got to interview Austin Eckler. Very, very cool moment for me when I asked him about scheme versus player talent and cited some Kellen Moore pass catching running back situations, which he turned around on me and was like, well, let's talk about when I was with Joe Lombardi, right? He wanted to throw a positive on it instead of a negative spin. And kudos to Austin Eckler for that.
Good job. He's a professional, man. He's going to be so great when he retires, dude. I'm very interested to see what he's going to do, because it's going to be something great. Jackson Smith and Jigba. This is a player I really like. I don't know where you have him, but you also have him reasonable.
I would put Jackson Smith and Jigba into the lineup staples. To be perfectly honest, I just don't see him being a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. Scheme change, more conservative offense. He's lining up on the outside a lot more than he's going to line up in the slot. They've already discussed that aspect of it. I think that he gets enough volume to just be a lineup staple, but I do not want to walk into any league this year with JSN as my top wide receiver.
So I'm going to throw my veto on this one. I love JSN, man. I think that with this scheme, even with the limited, even if it is run heavy, because of the fullback usage, because of the blocking tight ends, it's going to be so highly consolidated. The targets are going to be so highly consolidated among Cooper Kupp and JSN, and I guess whoever the tight end's going to be. I just don't see why he wouldn't be a guy that gets it's not that hard to get 120 targets, and that's all you need to have wide receiver 1 upside. So I'm using my veto to sneak him up here. I'm using my veto.
Okay, I can't argue against the veto. Next player.
Rules. I actually have him ranked wide receiver 12. Personally, I like him a lot, right ahead of T. Higgins and Marvin Harrison Jr. So I actually have him up here, because you're adamant about him being in there. I'm going to use it to put him at the back end here. We'll leave it at that. Devonta Smith, this feels like a prototypical lineup staple, right?
Agreed. Agreed. I
Here,
would put him. I would put Devonta Smith right behind DJ Moore. I'd
I
probably
kind of
put
like
him right behind DJ Moore. You know,
because
I mean,
DJ Moore has more of a chance of being the wide receiver.
of being the wide receiver one for his team. Same thing with Pittman and with Judy and with Flowers. So they're all the that.
Super
I'm on
duper
Raw. Yep, you can put him there. I'd actually slot him in ahead of Puka Nacua still.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's just so reliable, dude. He just turned out to have the best attitude, winner's attitude of anybody ever. Catches 1,000 balls after practice every day. Like he's doing the things that he reminds me of his attitude and like his work ethic remind me of like Michael Irvin when he was playing, where it was like what Michael Irvin obviously, on his days off was kind of a problem, but like there are stories of him going out and catching passes after practice until the back quarterback throwing him the ball would be throwing him. And that's kind of like what Amon-Ra St. Brown does. Like he's just like he's a psycho. So you got to rank him really high. Cortland Sutton, this is a player we both like.
I think we already said lineup staples. Yeah. Right? Like that's where we're at. I'll put him. Yeah. I'll actually put Cortland Sutton ahead of DJ Moore and behind Mike Evans.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot for him. As we get to this last group here, I think we're gonna do some housekeeping when we wrap this up. But let's do Brian Thomas Jr. first because I think he's going to be part of this discussion.
Probable wide receiver one for me.
Yeah,
and I would put him right behind Nico.
Yeah, right there.
Yep.
Jalen Waddle.
Danger zone.
No, come
Danger
on.
zone. Don't make me use my veto to bury Jalen Waddle.
If he's in the danger zone, I feel like Addison and Hunter have to be in the danger zone too.
Nope.
I would drag them into the danger zone.
Not at all.
Okay. Fine. I will go on. I know you hate Jalen Waddle. I just want the fans and the family out there to know that I still like Jalen Waddle. I still believe in him. I think Tua Tagovailoa is a pretty decent quarterback, and I think Jalen Waddle could have good things this year, but possibly in the danger zone. Garrett Wilson.
Probable wide receiver one for me behind McConkey.
There?
Yep.
I can't take him ahead of. See, this is why I think we need.
Who else is catching passes in New York? He's the only game in town, dude. He is the wide receiver one. I know that we don't love Justin Fields. Do we love Michael Penix that much? Come on.
He makes me nervous. Can I do one thing? Can we do this?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I think that's actually exactly how you have it.
Okay.
I think you have those guys.
With that.
I think you have those guys 10 and 11. I think I might too. No, I have Garrett Wilson
10 and 11.
Yeah. Okay. Good. We resolved that. Hey, you know what? Here, because you've been so good. Look at that.
Oh, well, you're just doing that because you're going to put Williams into the feel-good wide receivers, and then you're going to put Worthy into the lineup staples.
I don't like Worthy. Do you like?
Oh, you don't? Okay.
I don't know if I like Worthy. I think both these guys belong here.
J-Mo goes after Pittman and before Pickens.
Yes. I think what's the difference between Worthy and Jameson Williams? Worthy didn't have like a single game with over 80 yards in the regular season. The only game where he had 100 yards was the Super Bowl, and it was all garbage time.
Again, what we're looking at here, we got to look at the season. We got to look at the fact that all the injuries that the Chiefs had in the beginning of the season to the wide receiver core, right? Losing Rashee Rice, losing Marquise Brown. They even said it. They did not get to use Xavier Worthy the way they wanted to use him from day one. How they wanted to use him is kind of what we saw, towards the tail end of the season. Low A-dot, good, strong target percentage, right? He was getting like 8 targets per game, and they were just like, all right, we're going to throw it to him 4 yards out and hope that he takes it for another 12.
So where would you want him?
Where would I want him? I think I would put him as a lineup staple. I would put him in as a lineup staple behind. Yeah, I can go behind Diggs or in front of Diggs. Either way, that's where I'm putting
it there. That guy makes me nervous. That's all I have to say. I do worry that a guy, because the thing is, no matter how you slice it with the rolls and all that, they had to throw him the ball because guys were hurt. And he had a bunch of games with 10 targets, and he couldn't get more than 79 yards. It's like, it makes me nervous when guys get these big roles and they don't live up to it. Like with Quentin Johnston when he was a rookie, really scared me a little bit. And then, he's kind of bounced back a little bit, but like I just get so scared when it's like, okay, we had the ideal situation. Rashi Rice was hurt. Hollywood Brown was hurt. You're the guy now. And then he goes out there and he's just okay. Like that's what scares me. But I think I do understand the upside and the appeal. And I think that the chart looks pretty good the way it is now. So I'm willing to leave it like that. And he has to go ahead of Diggs because Diggs is kind of a nightmare. Right? Like he really like if you're coming up with downside situations, it's pretty easy to come up with them for Diggs. And the chat agrees with you. He was forced into that role instead of being, naturally put into it. He didn't practice. You're right. He did not practice for that role all offseason. He got forced into it when Patrick Mahomes' helmet hit Rashi Rice's knee in a fluke incident. So, okay.
I mean, let's listen. That's the good thing, and what we can definitely track, and what we will be tracking throughout training camp, is when the Chiefs start throwing the football more, and they start, when we start seeing what the Chiefs are looking at, because we're going to be able to tell by scrimmages and practices where they're looking at, using Xavier Worthy as opposed to Rashee Rice. Is Xavier Worthy going to be that guy where everything is about yards after the catch for him? It's all about putting the ball into his hands. Because in a PPR format, I mean, I love that, right? Because, if you're talking about 8 to 10 targets in a full point PPR, then you're at least making up for the fact that he's not putting up big yardage totals.
Right. And now I will admit one thing, the last thing we talk about on these players before we get you guys out of here, that I do have a bias I've been trying to correct this year. Wide receiver rushing attempts are basically invisible to me. I gotta start recognizing that if a guy gets 2 carries, who cares? If a guy gets 20 carries, like Jamison Williams and Xavier Worthy both did, this guy had 20 carries for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. Those are meaningful points, right? Those points count. So that's kind of my blind spot on Worthy and Jamison Williams that I will add, and that's why we're going to leave him where he is, and that's a good spot for him. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. This is how we kind of hashed out our combined meeting of the minds and talked it out. If you want our individual rankings, both Howard's and I's, 100 rankings, right? If you want to see how far Howard can bury my guy Kyle Williams in his rankings, get the Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide now. Get the Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide now. Use the QR code there. Maybe we can even pull up a bigger one. Oh, dude, I totally screwed up the thing. We should have had it here the whole time. Oh, well. So get your copy now. It's got all of our rankings. I have 2 sets of rankings in there. I have another dynamic tier set of rankings that I love. I use them myself because they encapsulate upside and floor. It's got all these crazy articles on coaching scheme, my target totem pole, which is like how I rank guys in terms of targets, the running back questionnaire, all these massive, like crazy articles. The ones that you see that are free, we obviously work hard on those, but the ones in the draft guide, when you compare them side by side, it's going to blow your mind. So definitely get a copy of that now. Available now with new content coming out all summer long. Next week on this show on Wednesday, we're going to wrap up this plan here by doing our tight end tiers, the big difference making position where guys come from outside the top 15 in ADP every year to finish top 5. We've seen it for 8 years in a row. So don't miss that one when the tight end whispers get on there. Howard, do you have anything else to say before we get everybody out and out of here?
No, I would encourage you, Andrew Cooper, to go look at what I wrote about the rookie the rookies article in the draft guide, because maybe you'll see something nice about your boy Kyle Williams.
You think so, Andrew? Mean it? Everybody, check that out now, right after the show. Kyle Williams moving on up in our hearts and minds. Thanks for tuning in.